Welcome to another video on cycling the Camino de Santiago, Camino del Norte. This video will provide 5 essential tips on the Camino de Santiago by bicycle. These tips will apply regardless of the route you decide to take. My hope is that by following these tips, you will have a smooth and peaceful experience on your journey to Santiago de Compostela. Before we get started, don't forget, if you like this video, to hit the subscribe button. So without further delay, let's get started. So tip number 1, choose your bike wisely. Now there is a big difference whether you plan to bring your own bicycle or to rent the bicycle along the way. If you bring your own bicycle, the expectation is that you will bring a bicycle you're accustomed to, you know how to ride, and you're totally comfortable and fine with. So this tip will apply mostly if you are renting your bicycle. There are a number of ways to rent your bicycle, there are a lot of providers. However, choosing the right one is not as easy as it might seem. Don't forget that the entire Camino is over 800 kilometers in length with many difficult climbs along the way. If you're renting a mechanical bike, meaning not electric, the choice will come down to either a road bicycle, a gravel bicycle, or a mountain bike. I would say they are all fine. Stick to the bicycle you know how to ride and you normally ride every day. A road bicycle is fine, however, if you are planning to do any unpaved trails, and there are a number which might provide exciting alternatives to roads with very heavy traffic, in that case it might be better to have a gravel bicycle or at least a regular road bicycle with tires larger than usual. Make sure to do the Camino with a bicycle that has disc brakes because you will be doing a lot of riding in the rain. Choose the size of the bicycle very carefully to avoid the risk of having to ride a bicycle for 800 kilometers with a bike that is either too small or too big. And make sure to bring your own saddle and your own pedals. This will contribute to keep the experience as close as possible to the current riding you're doing. Now, those of you who are thinking of renting an e-bike, keep in mind that you might have a few issues if you are renting an e-bike with a non-removable battery. I will definitely recommend, if you can, to rent one that has a removable battery. The reason is, while you could easily find along the journey electric outlet to plug, it might be difficult overnight to keep the bicycle next to a charging station, unless of course you can simply remove the battery. Many accommodations don't allow you to bring your bicycle in your room, so make sure that you at least can remove the battery and bring it with you. Tip number 2, go light. Now it might go without saying, but don't bring too many things, especially considering that you are basically crossing a highly developed area of Spain with all sorts of shops everywhere. Now, how much your weight should be is of course highly personal. It will greatly depend on what your accommodation is gonna be, whether you're gonna be sleeping in hotels or camping. But make sure you not only pack your bicycle well, but you also avoid bringing too many things. So my recommendation is go through your gear list many times, reviewing every single item and thinking well whether you're gonna need it or not. Again, remember, you will be finding almost every type of shop very often. Traveling lighter will not only keep you faster, it will also keep you more agile and you will be better prepared for those days when it will rain. Now, tip number 3 might be personal, however, having done the Camino, I would say stay away from big cities unless you have a good reason. In my experience, big cities, I'm particularly talking about Bilbao and Gijón, equal to a lot of traffic getting in and a lot of traffic getting out. Risk of getting fines from police for riding in the wrong way. In my case, riding through big cities equal to a often frustrating riding experience with very little in return other than the beauty of the city that you might not want to miss or you might not care depending on what your priorities are. A little better, San Sebastian. Of the 3 cities is also my favorite, so it's the one I would recommend to absolutely not miss, particularly if you don't have that much time available to complete the Camino. Now, the traffic situation in and out of cities can vary greatly whether you are entering and leaving a city in a weekday or in the weekend. If you plan well and you are leaving a big city for the weekend, you might be lucky and maybe not encounter too much traffic. It also depends, obviously, on the moment of the day, so make sure you plan all of that well in advance. Tip number 4, take care of your nutrition. And this is probably the only small exception to the previous tip. Considering the non-indifferent physical effort you will be doing, it is crucial that you find many opportunities to eat well what you need to remain in good shape on your way to Santiago. While you will have zero issues finding food, the type of food you will encounter might be substantially different depending on the size of the town. So also depending on what of the meals during the day are most crucial for you, make sure you plan accordingly. You want to make sure that if you have a tough stage in front of you, you had a chance of having a good breakfast, for example, or you had a replenishing meal on the evening before. Now, obviously, being in a big city will mean it's much easier for you to find the type of food you most like. You will always be able to find something to eat. However, the variety of food you might be able to find will depend greatly on how populated the area you're crossing is. This is especially true for some parts of the Asturias or the northern part of Galicia. This is, again, something that should be considered very well when planning your route. Tip number 5, be prepared for bad weather. Now, northern Spain is substantially different from southern Spain, which is dry or very dry depending on where you are. But northern Spain is known to be very rainy and the weather to be highly unpredictable. While in my experience I was lucky, I didn't have any rainy day through the Basque Country and Cantabria. Some of the days in the Asturias and of course in Galicia were rainy. And it's really hard to predict this because the weather forecast might give you a percentage of rain and you don't know if it will actually rain or not. So planning the route, it's hard. You must be prepared for the possibility of having an entire stage under rain that could be heavy. This is significant if you have a pre-planned journey and you have all your stops already planned and you need to ride in whichever weather conditions there are. Now, some of you might be well used to riding in the rain. I personally am not. However, there are some things to keep into consideration. Most important, you don't want your shoes to get wet. So make sure that in whatever bags you bring, you have shoes cover with you. There is really no need of having 2 pairs of shoes if you know how to dry your shoes if they are slightly wet. Some of you might want to bring a rain cover for your helmet to avoid your head getting soaked if it's raining hard. In terms of the bicycle, this means you not only need to pack well, but it would also be preferable to have, as I was saying at the beginning, disc brakes on your bicycle. While I have nothing specifically against rim brakes, disc brakes perform better under rainy conditions. So here we are at the end of this video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and see you on the road.